If you listened to the last episode, you'll know we started looking into some of the ghost stories from Edinburgh, but that was really just the beginning. The more we got into it, the more we realised how many of these stories there actually are. So in this episode, we're staying in Edinburgh and getting into a few more that stood out for us.
Lights on, still scared. You can't hide from what's already here. Can't run, can't breathe. Something in the dark remembers me. No matter what I do, that feeling doesn't go away. Lights on, still scared. The hauntings never
I remember this couple from Ireland years and years ago took this photograph. Oh, it was great. And I wish I'd asked for it, but it was like it wasn't like an apparition, but it was like a white sort of tube, like a serpent. And it was winding round everyone. It was like it had gone in between people's, through their legs and their armpits. We were all covered in this thing. It was really interesting. It's like a big bendy snake.
Yeah.
It was an odd one. It wasn't just like an orb, which is, could be explained easily. That was odd. Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows, indeed. TripAdvisor. I do like TripAdvisor. I remember TripAdvisor reading about the Apex hotels in Edinburgh. I thought that was really good. I mean, Apex hotels are great. They're nice, comfortable hotels. But because where they're built on the grass market, which has got a history of all sorts, potentially things have happened there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced anything in the grass market?
I haven't, but interestingly, the Apex, I do know that there's apparitions of people in rags,
Yes,
or so I've heard.
that is correct.
And a friend of mine actually did say to me a few months back that I think she said her husband's great grandparents lived there.
Yeah,
And that's when there were the tenements, and that's where people were like really
yeah.
poor, and they were, well, I mean, they lived in rags, basically.
Yeah.
And I suppose they did over the centuries live in there. So I thought that was quite interesting. I thought, oh, well, that all ties in as to perhaps why that hotel is haunted.
Yeah, I mean, the figures wearing rags is definitely the description. And I remember, I think some lady posted a review. I mean, it's weird because when you post a review, it's got to be like you're posting a review on the hotel, but you're also having a bad experience in it because maybe you've seen a ghost. So do you give them a terrible review because they've seen a ghost? I mean, it's not their fault, kind of thing. So it's quite interesting. Some people give a poorer review because they had a bad night's sleep, and normally it'd be like the bed was lumpy or whatever, or there's noise outside. But when you see a woman in your room clutching an old apron and a ragged, bearded faced man, it looks like they're screaming, and you have a bad night's sleep. Does that mean you give the hotel a bad room?
Well, unless, of course, the hotel knew that room was haunted.
Well, that's very true. If that was the case, they'd be charging double.
Well,
Make a fortune from it. But yeah, this is the common thing. They've seen like a woman wringing her hands and a guy screaming. Now, is the guy, what's that about? Did some tragedy unfold there? Is the guy going to get hung? Is she at the hang? They hung many people there, of course. Interesting stuff. Some of the pubs as well have like lots of creepy little vignettes about it. It's interesting. I think, for me, one of the pubs I think is quite interesting, and probably more so than some of the others, is probably Tolbooth pub, which is down the bottom of the Royal Mile. Your Canongate. That's quite interesting, that one. I mean, again, it's got a kind of an old bit at the front and a sort of newer bit at the back. It's an ancient... The building looks great, by the way. It's like an old... it looks like an old townhouse, basically. It's got a clock in it. But it was a prison at one point, or part of it at least. And there's some really good stories attached to it. And I actually spoke to a lady who worked... her family lived there for years. And actually, she used the pub. She frequented the pub. And one of her relatives had died, and they actually had their wake in the pub. And what was happening was there was books had been taken out during the wake, and like poltergeist had taken the book out and dropped it. And when they opened it, there was a name inscribed in it, which was, I think, the name of the relative who'd passed away, which was odd.
That's really odd.
That was odd, yeah. But I spoke to some people that had lived next door. And the one thing that's interesting was they always heard sounds of men, well, assumed to be men, but clumping, thumping sounds in the attic, like pump, 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 like heavy boots. And it was really interesting because there was when it was a prison, there was actually an escape planned, and they'd broken into the tenement next door, into the attic. So all the sound of clumping was going on. And that was what they were hearing all the time when they were there. And there's some random story about a witch or a wizard or a warlock there as well, but I don't know much about that at all. I don't know if that's probably one of these fantasy kind of stories.
Yeah, the old folklore strikes again.
Yeah, it's a nice pub. It's definitely got I've never felt anything weird in it. Put it that way, but it's definitely got a strange vibe. I mean, some of the museums, like for example, the People Story, that's again got similar kind of phenomena. And you've also got, what's the other one across the road? Oh, Huntley House. I had a couple of friends who worked there. Kerry. Kerry told me a couple of stories when she worked there for these places. And they were quite heavy vibe in it in certain places, quite creepy. Staff were scared to go to certain parts. I think toilet and staff room or something was meant to be haunted. And they just had weird things go on. I think one of the buildings, if I remember correctly, they're just schooling one day, and the kids were really upset because when they were actually showing a kind of film, they had a screen, there was a pair of legs sort of seen to be hanging on the screen. And of course, Kerry, I believe it was Kerry and her friend got roasted by the teacher thinking they'd pulled a prank on the kids. But they didn't, which was odd. So was somebody hanging there or being hung there? I don't know. It was a strange one.
Oh, no.
I know. So there's a lot of stuff, but you know, it's difficult when you're approaching the council. The council, like any other body, kind of keep a bit of a kind of impartiality when it comes to these things. So if you ask them too many, you know, they're not going to go, oh yeah, you have to find the source. I mean, I'm sure there's some fabulous stories out there waiting to be uncovered. I think.
I'm sure that they probably are.
My favourite of all the wee museums was probably the one that was the Childhood Museum.
Oh, on the
Mile.
On the Mile, yeah.
Which has kind of been done up a bit. So they got rid of some of the older style stuff at the bottom. It's a bit of a shame. It was a really cool museum back in the day. So there's a lot of kind of computery stuff now at the bottom, which is a wee bit, I don't know, but you know. But I liked it when it was crowded with old toys and then a creepy little spooky ghosty house thing. You could put a penny and it would work. A little ghost would pop out the chimney and that, which is fantastic. But I spoke to someone whose mother and father worked there. I think they were cleaners, or at least the mother was a cleaner. Potentially the guy worked there as like an attendant, I think. But he quit his job from the museum. Because when he went in one morning, he said there was an overpowering smell of shit on the stairs, which was quite awful.
Yeah.
And as they went up, they were like, what's going on? And the guy apparently came running downstairs and quit his job because he heard a woman singing, described as not in a nice voice, and it just totally freaked him out. That was on the staircase of the museum. And interestingly, not long after, a lady got in touch and said, oh, well, I had an experience, but not there, but on the flat opposite. Because, I don't know if you know, but part of it, that wee complex, is like a retirement home now. So she'd gone and stayed with her mum because she'd missed her bus or taxi. So it was late in the morning, you know, and she went to get a drink of water anyway from the sink. And of course, her window from the kitchen faced the window of the stairwell of the museum.
Right.
And there was a woman standing at the stairwell of the Childhood Museum looking back at her, who obviously was not human, like a peely-wally looking bedraggled figure, and she was like, totally freaked out. So it's an interesting place. But there you go.
Don't think I've been in there, actually. I'll have to give it a go.
You should have a go. Do you like dolls?
Dolls?
Yeah.
Not really.
I wouldn't go. No,
Okay, is it full of dolls?
Full of dolls, yeah. There's a room full of dolls, and they're wax, and they kind of, apparently when they get too hot, they kind of droop a little bit. So they sort of move, and maybe that's why everybody thinks it's haunted. And dolls
Just
are
the
moving.
dolls move.
Yeah, but I mean, if you don't like dolls, God, I don't like it.
No.
Well, I do like it, but I don't like that particular room. It's creepy. They've got wee mannequins of kids as well, so you kind of see them at the corner of your eye, like, you know.
Oh, it sounds actually now. I'll give it a miss.
I'd have a great time. Do you know, I'd like to stay overnight and do an investigation. I'm sure it'd be fantastic. I don't think council really. I don't think they're into that, are they?
I don't know.
Well, unless you
All
offer
but
them, like,
ask, I suppose. We can all but ask.
might involve a large bribe. Who knows? But it would certainly be interesting. But anyway, have you got any other buildings named that you like particularly?
In Edinburgh.
Would you say?
Oh, now what is the place that's by the Parliament?
You've read my mind.
I must be psychic.
So must be psychic. I was going to talk about Queensberry House.
That's
Yeah, is
the
that
one.
That's the one.
Queensberry House.
Oh my God, yeah. I think it's a hideous story and it's creepy as hell. And it's like, but it's one of these things, if you believe in it, it is creepy as hell. But if you don't believe in it, you're going to, yeah. But I do believe it's got the potential for being a very haunted building. The problem is, there's not a problem, but the thing is, the building interior was done up when they built the Parliament building, because it's now part of that Parliament building.
Yeah.
However, it was a large townhouse owned by the Duke of Queensberry and his family, and they lived there for many generations. And when 1707, at the time of the signing of the Act of Union, where we're going to be one Parliament, the story goes that he and his fellow signers were much hated in Edinburgh and had to sign the document in secret, which is true. I don't think they ever found out really where it was signed, but it's meant to be the Royal Mile, and allegedly left the house nearly empty because they took their entourage with them. And the two people in the house were his son, James Douglas, who, depending on the report you read, maybe 10 or 12, but young, who was locked in a cell or his bedroom because he was described as a violent lunatic. He was like an aggressive, huge, man-sized child with a, voracious appetite, all this kind of scary stuff piled upon him. And he'd apparently been kept like that for years because his father was probably embarrassed by him. And if he had anything wrong with him, any kind of difficulties or health difficulties, his father certainly wasn't going to be the guy who's going to try and nurture it out of him or try and help him in any way. So kind of kept him locked away. And the other person who was in the house on the fateful night was a young lad, roughly the same age, but he was cooking the meal. And I don't know the interior of that building at all back in the day, but allegedly the kitchen was downstairs and it was a big half-moon fireplace, as they had. And sometime during the whole debacle of the signing, the son had broken out and gone in search of food, and obviously, I'm assuming, been tempted by the smell of what was cooking, and had found the scullion boy and eaten him. So he took a spit and roasted him and scoffed him, basically. And it was absolutely a horrendous story. And then the family came back and saw the remains, and of course were so mortified that they decamped down to Leeds pretty soon after and left the house empty. And this reputation grew as the most horrible house in Edinburgh. And, scary stuff indeed. And it was written about in, I think, a book called The Annals of Edinburgh, which was about 1740, I think. So it happened much, much later. And that was what happened to him. And so basically the family put the son, James Douglas, stripped of his title in a lunatic asylum where he died around about the age of 18. So the ghost is meant to haunt the building, of the boy who was eaten. And the eater was known as the Canongate Cannibal. It's interesting because the actual room where he was eaten today is now kind of like a socialising meeting place for MPs. And I dare say they might have a lunch or two there, I don't know. Isn't that weird?
Irony there.
I know, but the actual bit is that people think it was made up because they didn't believe something so grotesque could happen. And they said God had punished the family, and you got all these stories. But what's really interesting was, like, literally 3 months ago, there was a Facebook post about it, because it had become a hospital in 1945 and then a care home. And there was tons and tons of people commenting on it. And I read about 15 different reports from different nurses who all said the same thing, that the patients at the point of death saw a boy standing in the corner of the room, crying, and sometimes describes wearing a red jacket, or something described as a black boy. Now, does that mean, was he a black boy or was he burnt?
Yeah.
It's horrific. And the smell of burning in the air.
Yeah.
That's horrible if it's true.
Yeah.
Oh, it gives me the creeps, that story.
It's not a nice story.
It's not a nice story if it is true.
If it's true.
If it is true. But these nurses were obviously rational people, and they're probably the least likely people to go into that kind of whole ghosty stuff, I suspect.
I do feel that doctors and nurses have quite a few stories to tell.
Yeah.
So perhaps We should do something on that one.
We should. There's plenty of hospitals. We should definitely do it. And I do know a few nurses. We could probably possibly a doctor or two. We could possibly get a few stories out of them lot somewhere along the line.
I do believe the Edinburgh, the old infirmary, which are now nice flats, are they not?
I know.
That was rumoured to be haunted.
I'll bet. They look great flats though. But what went on there?
Yeah.
Oof. No. Not for me. No. If it's free, maybe.
Well,
Like considering. Yeah. What can you do?
Oh dear, right. So, the only thing I've got about Edinburgh Haunted is one of my own encounters.
Do tell.
Well, Usher Hall Theatre.
Oh, very good.
Yes.
Oh, very nice.
So this is quite a few years back because it's all been done up.
Yes.
So it's all quite nice and nice seats and everything. So this is when it was, before it was all, so it's quite a few years ago now. So I would say about 20 odd years. 20
Yes.
plus. I was at an Erasure concert.
Very good.
Halfway through, I thought I need the little girlies, so off I went, trotted away, and the whole place was empty. So I went to the loo, as you do. Well, obviously, the ghosties like to think, get me in the loo, don't they? So I was washing my hands, and it had a big old, you know, those old brass knobs,
Yeah.
kind of handles.
Yeah.
It started to move
Right.
by itself, and I thought, it's like someone couldn't get in.
Yeah.
So it got more and more persistent, and it was like quite violent at this point.
Yeah.
And I thought, for God's sake, you know. Now the door handle was still moving as I reached for it. When I opened it, there was no one there.
Yeah.
There would be no chance anyone would have had time to have got
No.
away. So I legged it
Of course.
back to my seat.
Back to the safety of the Erasure concert.
Indeed, back to safety of Erasure.
What were they playing when you got back? Do you
I
remember?
can't remember. I think I was too traumatised. But that's the only
was
time
worth
where
it.
I've actually felt scared.
Yeah.
And I thought that's a little bit, no,
Yeah.
that's a little bit. So is there anything about the Usher Hall that you know about?
Nothing.
Nothing.
No, seriously.
Mm,
I mean, I know the Lyceum, which is next door, isn't it?
Just next door, yeah.
The Lyceum is meant to have some spooky stuff.
Mm.
Yeah. There is a few meant to be spooky theatres. The Playhouse has a few stories attached. We've got that old
I know
faithful
the
one.
Playhouse.
Yes. With the guy, the old attendant.
Albert.
Albert, that's
Bert.
him. Yeah. I love the name. I love the fact everybody gives the ghost a really sweet name. You know, Albert. So harmless. My favourite ghost name's Horace.
Oh.
Horace the ghost.
Horace.
The ghost,
Where
yeah.
is Horace?
Horace hangs out, or did hang out, on St Giles Street,
Oh, okay.
which is those apartments now, which was owned by the council back in the 70s. And there was a great article back in the 70s about two cleaners who'd seen Horace in the basement. And he was a grey, blobby-looking figure with watery blue eyes.
Oh, dear.
I know. And one of them was down cleaning with her mate. And she'd only just started the job. She'd only been in the job for 2 days or something. And she was interviewed, and they were cleaning in the basement. And Horace appeared, and they were screaming and bolting away. And the kind of charge hand was sort of like, don't worry about Horace, he's okay. So, funnily enough, the current crop of staff there, and I must have asked 5 times to speak to management. Never got anywhere with it.
Rude.
I know. I hope they're not listening. But anyway, well, maybe they are. But the point being was, I was convinced that if I went in there, I could, winkle at a few more stories. But apparently they've locked the bottom bit now, and they sort of use it for storage. But they say they hear strange glooping sounds coming from outside the Horace's bit. Isn't that weird?
That's weird.
I know. So it's another one in the many to yet be discovered.
Indeed.
Because, that list goes ever longer, I might add. Ever longer.
Indeed. Going back to the Playhouse, though, I was singing in the choir there.
Very good.
And it is a bit of a spooky feeling about the place.
Is it? Yeah.
I mean, they do say that apparently Albert's story was that he was like a workman there,
Yeah.
like a handyman, and he committed suicide.
Right.
I think we're going back quite a few years now.
Right. Yeah.
And they said it's usually on the 6th floor. A lot of the people that are like the celebrities and that are up there don't like it and all that. He needs to be up there.
Yeah.
But I think I did see him a few weeks back.
Oh.
Because there's a kind of like a corridor. You go up the stairs, and then there's the little bar on the left, little bar on the right. But there's like a corridor as you go to the bar on the left. And I think it's Bert's Bar. I think that's what they call it.
Okay.
And I just thought, feels a bit weird.
Yes.
So I kind of like poked my head around the corner, and I actually saw the back of a guy walking down this corridor, grey overalls on. His hair was slicked back, and it's quite dark grey.
Yeah.
And the reason why I thought, you're not meant to be here, really, was that there was a woman coming in the opposite direction.
Right.
Now, she did not acknowledge him at all.
That's odd.
So I thought, And then afterwards, I actually said to one of the people that worked there, I said, has there been anything down there? She said, no, he's at the 6th floor. And I'm thinking, he's not. He goes around.
Yeah.
So I thought,
So do you think it was him? I mean, do you feel it was him?
I think it was him.
Yeah.
I think he doesn't just stay on the 6th floor. He goes all over the place.
Yeah. Isn't it weird?
But it's a bit of a, but then, were there not guillotine or something there once? Not guillotine, gallows around that area
Usher Hall.
well. No, the Playhouse.
Playhouse. Ooh, I'm not sure actually if it was that far down. Maybe, but certainly was. There was 3 or 4 in town. There was one at the corner of George Forth Bridge, Grassmarket. Crikey, I should know these things. And there's a couple more. There's one on the edge. There's actually one in Morning, or was one in Morningside as well. Must have been something in Leith. You got to be something in Leith. Could have had to be.
I think that area, has probably got.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yeah. They would have. I know it's not exactly bang on the spot, but Carlton Hill would have had stuff going on there. Definitely. And there was a prison there, of course, as well.
Yeah.
So who knows? Yeah, because they would have hung people in the prison, would they not have? Because the prison, I know it's not exactly the same spot, but it's near enough, isn't it? Who
Near
knows?
enough. It's just
But it's interesting.
Hop and a jump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting stuff. I've had a few stories given to me that I've not been able to kind of fully expand upon. So it is difficult when you get some stories. And sometimes you get stories, like I got a story from the library, which is so good, such a good story. And I went to speak to, because I did an event at the library a while back, and I went to try to speak to everybody, of course. What about this? Oh, no, I've not heard of this. So it's odd how some people will tell you a fantastic story. And then other people will just say, no, I've not heard it. So is it down to the person? Is that person destined to have that experience, but attracting that experience? I don't really know.
Yeah.
I mean, the one about the library is fantastic. I mean, the Central Library, of course, is huge, in George Forth Bridge, huge, deep building, multiple stories. And this story is given to me by a reporter, bizarrely enough, whose brother, it happened to his brother, who was working for a security firm. And he didn't work there normally, but he was called in, typically because the guy was ill. And this happens quite often. You get called in because somebody's ill. You don't know the building from Adam, you're in there. And he decided to, being the first night, very diligent, going around everywhere. I think they had to patrol every hour. And they had a clocking in system or something, so you had to make sure you were in certain bits at certain times. So you couldn't sort of skive off or whatever. And he's down the bottom, and he came to this room, and if I remember correctly, it had a photocopier in it, which was broken. An ancient one of those, what were those slide things you used to get as kids in the 1970s? Viewfinder.
Okay, yeah.
Like a viewfinder. Randomly sitting on this thing.
That is
It's a bit random, yeah. And it was like a broom, and I think a brush leaning against the wall. And that was probably about it in this big room. But he said it was a very old door at the back of the room. So he went along and gave it, to try and see where it went. And he jiggled the doorknob, and the bloody light went out. And then he got punched in the guts, right, and clonked on the head. And he was freaking out because he was like winded, and apparently crawling about on the deck, trying to find the light, which he did, and switched it on, and the broom had been cracked over his noggin basically and broke.
Oh, crikey.
I know. So he said he vomited, and he was actually crawling up the stairs, and ended up phoning the supervisor, who came out and said, once he'd recovered, his words of wisdom were, "Well, the last guy doesn't go down there because it's haunted." I hope to God that's a true story, because it would be absolutely fantastic. I mean, I took it as a true story.
Yeah.
But he never went back to the building. He says, no chance. Company's called AMEC. It's almost a company called AMEC, who were security guards at the time. And yeah, he never went back. He refused to go back. But the guy who was there before would not. Certain bits he avoided. So I spoke to the staff, said, whoa, what about this? And they were like, oh, interesting. No. I've never heard of that. Well, they've not seen anything. So.
Yeah.
But then does that mean anything at the end of the day? Who knows?
Who knows?
Never mind. So how are we doing? Have we got time for more?
Squeeze in
I've
another
got squeeze-
bit.
oh, I've
Squeeze in another.
Got the mummy's curse if you want to hear
Oh,
about the
go
mummy's
on with Mummy's curse.
curse. Mummy's curse. Okay. So we've kind of been focusing on the centre of Edinburgh, the Royal Mile, as it's known as. But we're going to sort of jump over to the old Stockbridge Comley Bank area.
Stockbridge. Oh,
Yes,
very nice area.
Very nice area. Has a few spooky stories, I have to say. There is
Oh.
a few spooky stories, but people don't tend to know of them so much. But there's one I read about years ago in a book, and I loved it. It was called The Mummy's Curse.
Oh.
And it was like I can't remember the name of the ghost book. It was something, oh God, it was something way back in the 70s. But a mate of mine covered it in a podcasty thing he did, or a wee film he did, North Edinburgh Nightmares covered it. And I thought, bloody hell, it's the same story. But it was interesting because what they did was they managed to get somebody who'd actually, was a contemporary report, because the reports were quite old at the time. In a nutshell, Lermouth Gardens, I'm trying to get this name right, I think it's Lermouth Gardens, number 15, was a townhouse owned by Lord Seaton in the 1930s, and him and his wife spent some time in Egypt, and at the time it was when, archaeology and Egyptology was very fashionable, so people would go off on tour and they'd pick up souvenirs, i.e. real valuable pieces, which they appropriated and took back to wherever. And they were in this tomb, and they met a local, and I think his brother was called Abdul, who said, I can show you this little pyramid, this little burial chamber that's a bit out of the ordinary. And they went along, and apparently it was what's called a pre-mummy mummy. Now, I know I'm not expert in this, but it wasn't one that was wrapped. It was a body on top of a slab, which of course was skeletal. And they were all very fascinated by this. And he went out for a fag, and Vela, who was his wife, decided to stay in and have another look. And then they were going to go and buy a souvenir. But she said, oh, I don't want a souvenir. And he thought that was a bit unusual. And they went back to the hotel and subsequently returned to Edinburgh. And to which she presented with him a little gift. And it was a glass case with a bone in it, a backbone, described as a heart-shaped digestive biscuit.
Oh, okay.
Which he nicked from the body of a high-ranking Egyptian woman. So I think he was a bit cheesed off, actually, by the sound of things. It all came out in a book called, Confessions of a Baronet. So whether this is true or not, but anyway, the gist of it was the story was in multiple newspaper articles. And he approached the newspapers initially because of the kind of poltergeist activity that was now happening in the house because of the bone.
Right.
Or so he thought. But people thought he was just off his head and he was making it up, and he was, they made a fool of him. So he kind of regretted it in a sense. But the activities was really odd. It was the typical mummy's curse kind of stuff. Like apparently a piece of the roof fell off and nearly clocked a guest at a party. I mean, it could kill them. Somebody was injured in a car crash. His daughter became very ill with an ear infection. The marriage was suffering. So he had his nephew round, and his nephew's crying because he got in the loo in the middle of the night, and there's a guy in robes walking up the stairs who he describes a man wearing a large dressing gown. Well, that could be. So this was the kind of stuff going on, and they'd lent the object to a couple of reporters, and I think one was either killed or injured in a crash. So the bit was given back, and this was going on. And in fact, one of the guys he spoke to was an Egyptologist, and he said that they should get rid of it, put it back. But he didn't. He got his uncle to burn it in the back garden. And when his wife found out, she wasn't overly happy about this. Subsequently divorced. Anyway, the story came out in this book in the 1930s, and he passed away himself in 1963. So now the flat's subdivided into flats. And the story is that there's always weird stuff been happening. But the most interesting one was, I think he was a chiropractor. He went round fairly recently, and he used to go around a client's house and would do whatever he does. and on this occasion had gone there, and the woman had gone out the room for water or whatever it was, and left him in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And he glanced round and there was a guy, or he didn't know whether it was a guy or a woman, but something wearing like a veil. And he just freaked out. So he's been interviewed on, you know, on that edition of the programme. And he genuinely looked like he'd been unsettled.
Mm.
So there is something particularly weird about that place. But the spirit or the figure of either a woman, because it describes a shortish woman,
Right.
but also an Egyptian priest, were seen regularly at the time. So which flat it is, I don't know, but it's a downstairs one, and I know that's the bloody front room. So that's where, in the morning, the people used to hear crash bang in the middle of the night, come through and find the furniture all upended, according to the book. So I often look in the window and think, will I ask one day if I can come in and have a look, or is there any stories? But I thought, what if you don't know the story and some random guy comes up and says, oh, by the way, your house is, you know, haunted and this is what happened. It's not going to make you feel very good. So
It's not, no.
So I've kind of resisted the urge, I
So
have to say.
I suppose the moral of that story is don't pick anything up that you shouldn't.
Indeed, hats included.
That's included.
I know.
And
So there
on
you go,
that
folks.
note-
And on that note, folks, that's the lesson over for this week.
That's our podcast finished for the day.
Yeah.
Until the next one, which I do believe is Castles and Palaces.
Castles and palaces. Yeah.
We've got both.
Got a few of those in Scotland for sure.
So
Wow.
see you next time.
Take care, folks. See you soon. Bye.
So that's where we'll leave it with Edinburgh, a place we're living in now. And that clearly has no shortage of stories. But in the next episode, we're moving beyond the city and getting into some of the haunted castles and palaces across the UK, where the history goes back even further and the stories get a little more intense. And if you've ever visited any of these places or had any experiences, let us know.
I keep the hallway light on, but the shadows never fade. Every corner whispers secrets of the choices that I made. There's a tapping at the window, though the wind is standing still, and a chill runs down my spine like something moving at its will. I tell myself it's nothing, just the creaking of the floor. But every night the silence feels louder than before. Lights on, still scared. You can't hide from what's already here. Can't run, can't breathe. Something in the dark remembers me. No matter what I do, that feeling doesn't go away. Lights on, still scared. The hauntings never fail. There's a shadow in the doorway where I swear no shadow should be, and it moves just like a memory I'm too afraid to see. Every picture on the wall seems to watch me as I pass, like they're waiting for the moment when my courage doesn't last. I whisper little prayers to keep the nightmares from my bed, but something sits beside me, breathing echoes in my head. Lights on, still scared. You can't hide from what's already here. Can't run, I swear I feel a presence drawing near. You can say there's nothing there, but tell me if that's true. Why does something in the quiet feel like it's looking through me too? Lights on, still scared. You can't hide from what's already here. Stand still, don't breathe. Something in the dark won't let me be. Even when I scream, the silence answers every shade. Lights on, still scared. Somehow